Player Latin 2. We are on chapter 54. And for those of you keeping track, yes, I keep touching my nose as soon as I start turning this thing on. Go back. It's kind of a funny little montage. But we're on chapter 54, a sad occasion, because it's the end of the book. I mean, there is one more chapter, which is the story of Constantine, and I'll translate that for you. And then there's also a poem in there on 54E that's worth doing. Honestly, the what do you call it? The epitaphs are actually kind of fun, but I'm gonna skip them this year, just in the interest of not loading you up with too much work. If you want to do them, good. Send them to me. Those I will actually grade. Grade. I will actually give you feedback on though. Okay. So here we are, page 295, 54. The heat was so great during the month of July in the city that everyone was wanting to go to the country house. Gaius Cornelius therefore began to prepare everything to return to Baiae. Before he left, a most sad thing happened. Cornelius, as he was accustomed with Titus, his brother, had gone to the baths. Let's see. There was silence through the whole house. Suddenly, voices were heard and shouting. Cornelius was urging the slaves to bring a couch or a litter, into the house with great care. Aurelia, once the voices had been heard, burst into the atrium. What happened, Gaius? Why do you order the slaves to bring the litter into the house? And again, the litter is the carrying thing that you take people through. There's a courtyard that you park it in. You don't bring it into the house. To which Cornelius said, our Titus received something of bad. Or something bad happened to Titus is what he's trying to say. The tiled floor of the cold room was so smooth and so slippery that he fell having slipped. I think that he broke his hip. A doctor must immediately be sent for. Another gerundive of obligation. I really don't know why this book didn't just put that into one of the chapters. We didn't need all of 49 talking about audio. Also, medicus, not mendicus. Don't say a beggar must be summoned. It's a doctor. For many days, Titus was laying in the bed. At first, he seemed to be getting stronger. However, soon he was weaker, for he had slipped suddenly into a fever. And he was growing ill day by day. Or rather, the illness was growing day by day. At last, he was so weak that he could scarcely speak. Hardly a little later, he left from life. Excasit. He marched away from life. He died. Cornelius was overcome by great sadness. The whole house gave itself over to grief. Aurelia and Cornelia and all the slave women, with their clothing having been torn and their hair having been disheveled, were beating their breasts. The corpse or the body of Titus was placed on a funeral bed or a funeral pyre in the atrium. Again, an open-air gathering. Now, this makes a lot of sense for dinners because the smells all go up. And this makes a lot of sense for gathering of people because the sound doesn't get trapped. And also, all the smells go all up. And this makes a lot of sense for a body because the smells all go up. Around the bed were burning torches and candles. On the following day, the body of Titus was carried out with the greatest honor. Pipers, horn players, and other kinds of horn players, essentially deeper horn players, were marching out in front. In the parade, in the procession, were men holding torches, women singing dirges, actors carrying or wearing the death masks and the clothing of the ancestors, mimes, officials carrying torches, household members, and mourning friends. When they had come into the forum, Gaius Cornelius stepped forth to honor his dead brother, to praise his dead brother. He recalled what sort of man Titus was and how many accomplishments or services he had carried out or bestowed toward the emperor and the citizens. When this had been done, or with this having been done, the body of Titus was carried to the tomb, or to the tombs of the Via Flaminia in a procession. There, a funeral pyre had been built. His corpse had been placed on the funeral pyre, and over the corpse, or his body, over the body, his clothes and decorations. Gaius Cornelius approached, holding a torch in his hand. With his eyes having been turned aside, he threw that torch, or he thrust that torch into the funeral pyre. So when you build a funeral pyre, you put logs this way, and you put logs on top this way, and that creates air. And you keep going like that, and you let a lot of air come through because fire needs oxygen. So you put the torch in the middle, and you put tinder in there, and then with the funeral rites having been completed, the sad Cornelii returned homeward. They were speaking a lot about Titus. They were remembering how funny or how cheerful he had been, and how many children he had loved. They say, we all will miss him greatly. And that is the end of the story of the Cornelii. From here on out, it's just regular Latin about Romans and stuff like that. So we're going to leave the Cornelii behind. I will say this, though. I really strongly recommend you read pages 308 through 311 to find out what happened to the Cornelii family after Titus's death. So I'm going to hit the button.